Hi guys, welcome back to yet another video. Am I on the verge of burning out from making a video every day and running a trucking business?
Heck yes.
Am I going to stop anytime soon?
Nope. I can rest when I'm dead.
Okay, all kidding aside, this video is really geared towards providing new motor carriers advice on how to build their carrier's reputation in the industry. And this is very important. So you can do that in the first year because when you just walk in, you have a blank slate and the possibilities are endless in a good way and in a bad way. So if you're ready, let's go. The first piece of advice I can give you is to stand your ground with brokers. Now, I mentioned this in one of my previous videos where I talk about how I negotiate higher than average rates. But if you didn't watch that video, it is crucial that you do not back down and bend towards the broker's will when it comes to negotiating rates, especially in the beginning. So why is that? Because if you let a broker negotiate you down the first time, they will be doing that for every load that you book with them. From the first load that I booked, which was with TQL, I remember the guy very well, I never took a crappy rate. That's why now if I call and ask for $4,500 on a 587-mile load,
True story from 2 days ago.
they give it to me. So is standing your ground from day one enough to get you good rates? No, of course not. So the second piece of advice I want to give you is provide good service. Now, what do I mean when I say you have to provide good service? Of course, on-time pickups and deliveries are all part of it, but this is not what I'm talking about. The most important thing you can do as a carrier to build a good reputation is communicate. It's obvious, right? But not enough carriers do that. As you know, or you may not know, there is a very big misunderstanding between brokers and carriers, and that leads to animosity. Carriers hate brokers, and brokers are not fans of carriers. Why does this happen? Because carriers don't fully understand the broker's point of view, and because the brokers, let's be real, most of the time don't know what the carrier is going through or what the driver is going through when picking up and delivering a load.
Wait, you can't make it to pick up 180 miles away in 30 minutes? Well, why not?
Okay, that's an over-exaggeration most of the time. But back to my point, communication. So what do? Whenever I book a load, I let the broker know when the driver is on the way to pick up the load, when the driver arrives at pickup, when the driver is loaded, when the driver arrives at delivery, and when the driver is unloaded. I also provide status updates at least once a day if it's a longer transit load. The result, brokers trust us as a carrier and will pay us more for their own peace of mind. But is a good rate the most important thing? No, it's not. And that takes me to advice number 3. Don't book a load that pays you higher if it makes you run illegally. About a year ago, I booked a load from California to Nevada. It was a load of oranges. The driver got to the shipper, got loaded, went to the scale, and noticed that he was very overweight. So of course I called the broker and tell him that some of the product has to be unloaded because we can't run illegally. At that point, the broker tells me,
Oh, it's okay. You know what I'll do? I'll pay you $500 more if you take it as is.
did I take this crazy increase in the rate?
Nope.
So we made the shipper unload some of the product while of course keeping the broker updated.
What the hell is wrong with you? You could have made so much more money and just taken side streets to avoid all the wait stations.
Here's the thing. One of the most solid rules that is unchangeable in our company is the fact that we do everything legally. The reason is because my business partners and I believe that it's better to build a company on solid foundation and make maybe less money than build a company on quicksand, make more money, and then lose the company when someone catches you. My thought process was very simple when I was offered $500 more to transport this load. Number 1, this is an illegal load. It's overweight. Number 2, it's California where the rules are much stricter. Number 3, yes, we're making $500 more, but number 4, if we get pulled into a wait station, we either get an overweight ticket or an out-of-service order. I would rather preserve our reputation of being a legal, clean carrier than make $500 more and potentially ruin that reputation that it took so long to build. Plus, tainting your company record will bite you in the behind later on. More audits, less trust from brokers, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, the next piece of advice I want to talk to you about is a mistake that I see a lot of carriers make, and I understand why they make that mistake, but I will tell you how to avoid it. So the mistake is leaving the shipper without notifying the broker. Yes, loading times can be very long sometimes, especially if you're driving a reefer. And I'm talking about 10, 12 hours easy. But does that mean that you, as a carrier, can leave the shipper without notifying the broker? Absolutely not. After all, when you sign that rate confirmation, you're signing a contract. So what is the best piece of advice I can give you? Always notify the broker if you can no longer pick up that load. I'll give you a personal example that happened about 2 weeks ago. The driver arrived to the shipper about an hour before appointment time, and the shipper told him that unfortunately it will take them 8 to 10 hours to load him because they were behind. So the first thing I did was I called the broker, I explained the situation, and I gave the broker a chance to correct that situation. I gave the broker 30 minutes to call their customer, the shipper, the receiver, and whoever else they needed to call to get us loaded. Now, when I gave those 30 minutes, I told the broker that unfortunately, if we cannot resolve this within 30 minutes, we will have to go ahead and cancel the load because we would be losing a whole day. So when the broker called me back about 20 minutes later saying that that's not enough time for him to be able to resolve the issue, I politely explained why we have to cancel the load and apologized for it. And the best part, we actually got paid tonu, truck ordered, not used on that load. My last piece of advice is think outside the box. Problems happen in this industry all the time. And if you're not new to this industry, you already know that. The most frustrating thing that can happen is when an issue arises with a load and the broker refuses to help. So let me give you our experience of what happened to us last winter. I booked a load from Nebraska to California. The driver got loaded, he scaled out, everything looked good, and he started going. Now in Nebraska, every weight station let him bypass. But when he got to Wyoming, one of the weight stations stopped him. He scaled in, everything was good, and he kept going, but when he looked at his scale ticket, he realized that he was about 1,200 pounds overweight on his rear axle. The reason he wasn't pulled over in Wyoming for that was because by their rules, he was legal. But by Utah's rules and California's rules, 2 states that he had to pass to get to destination, he was illegal. Now, the big problem was he was already 430 miles away from the shipper. So he couldn't just go back and get the product redistributed because it was just tail heavy. It wasn't that the load was heavy. The product was just loaded incorrectly towards the back of the trailer. So what do? I called the broker and I explained the situation and asked him to brainstorm with me as to what he would like us to do. Now, what do I hear back?
This is your fault. This is your issue. This is you.
Okay, yes, we screwed up on some level because we could have gone to a CAT scale to see the distribution of the product, but geez, help a gal out. Now, what was our fear? Our fear was the fact that in Utah and California, there were a lot of weight stations on the way. And in Utah and California, first of all, we were illegal in terms of axle weight. And number 2, these are the 2 states that are very happy to give you an out of service order if you are overweight on your axle. Great. And if we were to get an out of service order, we cannot move until we fix the problem, which means we are late to delivery, we're losing days, we're losing money. And on top of it, how the heck do we move the product without using a pallet jack? And we don't have a pallet jack. So it was a lot of things happening all at once. Time was running out. So here comes the thinking outside the box part. I called every single cross-dock facility on the way, someone who could help us rearrange the load neatly. And thankfully, we managed to find a guy who was working late who helped us.
Thank you, Jose. We will never forget you.
Of course, I kept the broker updated on the situation the whole time, even though he was...
Well, you know.
The load was delivered on time, clean bills, no issues. So the takeaway is, think outside the box. And remember, in my experience, most brokers are there to think with you. But when they aren't, like the broker I just mentioned,
clearly you're not holding a grudge at all.
You have to learn to think quickly on your feet. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.